conversation on USAID. This is the United States Assistance and International Development Program, in which many of the grant monies that are provided and offered to countries, especially different areas and locations in which services are really compromised, the United States has created a system by which, uh, through congressional determination, and then after signing it into a bill, funds are then provided into USAID that are distributed, that usually are designed to deliver food aid. That's the number one activity of USAID. However, there's also some infrastructure development aid in which there are roads, there are buildings that are provided, and then there's also school infrastructure and sometimes informational infrastructure. And in this concept, the Doge division of the Trump administration, which is working on government efficiency, it's determined that USAID is a corrupt organization and has basically shut USAID down. And this has become a significant issue, not only nationally, but internationally. What is the role of USAID and what is the impact? And inshallah, with my guest today, Dr. Ahmed Ghanem and Reginaldo Nazargo, we'll be able to speak to these issues and kind of parse out, is this situation with USAID a good thing, a bad thing? Is USAID a benefit or is it a harm? And where does the United States move forward from here, especially its role as a global leader? Very often, where providing assistance and development is critical even for our interests, including our security interests. Hey, Ahmed, so what do you think? How do you feel about what's going on with Elon Musk and his enforcement and his concept on USAID?
I mean, there is a lot of conflicting views about this, and regardless where you stand, whether you are from the left or the right, I think you should be alarmed by how they executed this. You have someone that is not elected. Nobody elected Elon Musk, and he has this unlimited power to go and send his guys to shut down this organization without consent from the Congress, without even proper channels to do this. I'm not against shutting it down if it's needed to be shut down, but coming someone like me, I lived in under dictatorship, and I see these signs of dictatorship when you have someone with unchecked powers that goes and shut down one of the major organizations for the country, then go and announce this on X for his friends. So this is really alarming to me, and this is the most important issue that I think every American should focus on.
Rex, what do you think?
No, I have to echo the same statements. I think America has been, at least at this point, in one aspect, very unique due to the way it has conducted its politics through checks and balances internally. And I don't necessarily disagree with the idea of shutting an agency down if it is so determined through the right processes, the right investigations, the right auditing, that this agency is indeed doing malpractice in its field, right? It's indeed corrupt. It's indeed using funds in an inappropriate way. It's misusing taxpayer money. That's all perfectly okay, and it's in line with the vision of what a government is supposed to do. It's supposed to minimize costs for its citizens as taxpayers. But I have to echo the same statements as Dr. Ahmed Ghanem, that the way this is being executed is almost totalitarian, where you have an unelected President Donald Trump came in with the promise that he would eradicate the deep state, and this is what he's promising even to this day, because it's entrenched bureaucrats who do things without authorization. And this is exactly what Elon Musk is doing. So I think the irony is lost on a lot of people here that Elon Musk is an unelected bureaucrat who's taken it upon himself, because he gave a large sum of money to the Trump campaign, to reform the US government and wields a significant amount of influence over Donald Trump and the administration. I think there's definitely a very alarming element to that. And I personally believe that the executive branch of the United States government should not be the most powerful branch. That's the path to tyranny, in my opinion. And whether that was under Joe Biden or a possible Kamala Harris or Barack Obama, or Donald Trump. All presidents have contributed to this, and none of us should be blind to it, that the executive is growing too much and too rapidly, and the other branches of government are not able to keep pace with it. And this is a problem, in my opinion, and people need to be careful of this mass hysteria that for the sake of conveniency and expediting processes, they sacrifice their political rights. This is an
So
issue.
basically, you can't fight the deep state by putting another deep state in there.
Exactly.
And I do agree. And this is, to me, this is the challenge. All right. USAID has been critical. We know USAID provides important grants for foods. I've been involved in organizations that have applied for grants for USAID. But again, this is where we talk about government efficiency, right? When we're applying for those grants, a big problem for USAID is most of their employees, most of their bureaucrats were not available. Like back in the 2000s, 2010s, in the early 2000s, if you went to that Ronald Reagan building, it was filled with people. You went to the USAID offices, you were greeted by people. There were people that you could meet with, they were actively there. There was active engagement. There was a human being that you can give and take. Now, for the past 4 or 5 years, and I went there myself for working on one grant, and there was nobody there. I mean, you went to an empty office spaces, which I'm paying tax dollar for, right? These are tax dollars that I'm paying for. Working on a grant, everybody was giving me somebody's email, somebody's phone number. There was no face-to-face person, which was absolutely agonizing. You flew all the way from Detroit to Washington, D.C., and you had an organization that's saying there it's there to help and assist. And the irony here is in the very own offices, you had no one to help you or assist you to help process. And obviously, the very same bureaucrats who have billions of dollars under their control can't seem to make an easy process to approve the grants, yet somehow they all keep finding appointments and jobs in this infrastructure. So, there is that argument. Not by the way, not that I'm disagreeing with what you and Ahmed said, but there is this argument that okay, and I don't think this was a problem only with USAID. I think this was a problem with the SBA. It's a problem with the IRS. It is absolutely agonizing as an American citizen paying tax dollars, knowing that there are people who are career bureaucrats that are sitting there, okay, that don't answer the phone, right? That I have to talk to a phone tree, ultimately to a voice message, and that I hope somebody will respond in time, and that person doesn't send me to the next person and to the next phone tree and to the next phone tree. So, in light of what I say, like, how do we, let's start with you, Rex, and go back to Ahmed. How do we address this then? Like, how do we, is Elon Musk necessarily wrong in saying that this is inefficient? Like, that again, I agree with you. It's dangerous. He's not appointed. There's no oversight, and really, Congress should create an empowerment mechanism and an oversight mechanism before he continues further. But now that we're there, is he necessarily wrong? Like, shouldn't we be doing something about this?
So yeah, I think when we look at government efficiency and things like USAID, we do definitely have to present a holistic picture. There's definitely a positive side to USAID and foreign aid. One of which is to assist underdeveloped areas. The other is to project soft power. This is critical to maintaining American influence abroad. And this is what America has used agencies like USAID for as well. It's to grant itself legitimacy in the international stage and then in the world order that it developed following World War II, the international world order. Destroying that single-handedly through an unelected bureaucrat is destroying the legitimacy of the United States on the international stage. That's number one. That doesn't mean it's not necessary. It very well could be, like I said earlier, if we look at a holistic picture, that the USAID funds are being misused and are often falling in the wrong hands. There may even be a paper trail of that. But as with everything, where is the transparency, right? Because Doge unilaterally took this decision. Elon Musk unilaterally shut employees out without transparency. What was the justification? Posting a tweet on X saying that the USAID is corrupt is not transparency, right? Where's the paper trail? Where's the investigation? Where is your conclusive evidence to the American public that this agency needs to be scrapped? And once that is presented to me as an American citizen, and I see the value in it, I may not stand against it. But the path that Doge and Elon have taken right now is extremely dangerous for the fragility of this political situation that we find ourselves in and this democracy.
Ahmed, what do you think? Like,
I think exactly the same. Like there are ways and policies to go around this, investigate this, hire a private entity, a third party that comes and said, okay. So I thought that the authority of the Doge, or what they call it, is just to pinpoint what's wrong. So you go there and say, where we suspect there is mishandling of millions or billions of dollars there, let's hire a big group that really know that they know what they do, those accountants, this third party, and come and say what's going on there. And they come up with a report. And according to this report should go to Congress, and Congress will say, okay, we validate this report or disagree with this report. Yes, it will take time. Yes, there is a part of bureaucracy to it, but this is how you maintain it fair and how you maintain it for the long term, not just for this time. And you cannot just for this is not like if you tell me this is happening in the United States, that a major sector in the government, the website, will be shut down overnight. If you go to U.S. government, USAID government right now, it's shut down by a single person. To shut down a website for a government that's really benefiting people all over the universe just by one opinion overnight. That doesn't happen if I have my own small clinic and someone will shut the website overnight. I'm not going to agree with this. But I'm saying, and the problem is too, USAID, there is a lot of corruption in USAID. That's totally, and I know that firsthand after the Egyptian Revolution.
Yep.
We were invited there. We went there and we met with the head of the USAID, and they talk about a lot of projects. And I told them during this time that I'm glad we came here. I'm glad we had this dinner. I'm glad we had this talk. But we need to see real effect on the ground. And you understand there is certain channels. There is gatekeepers in each society to where this fund will go and this fund will be directed, which is wrong, and we have to change that. But also we understand that at this moment there are people in certain areas in Africa or another way, they depend their daily food on the USAID. So their next meal actually was shut down because of Elon Musk and the people. If you imagine if you're running an organization, you're an American organization that you're delivering this food in Africa or someplace, and tomorrow there is no food to deliver. So the security, without even giving them notice, like if you give them notice, okay, guys, after 1 month we're gonna shut down, not shut down overnight, so they are struggling to feed those people that we need feed. Also, there are contractors. If I have a company, a construction company in Egypt or Iraq or somewhere, and have this contract with the USAID, and I started the project already, and now I'm limbo to know if you're gonna continue with me or not. So I think this is not how the United States conduct business, and I think we should really do a better job than this, and we should see what's going on with the with Elon Musk. What is his authority? Because if you hire someone for the government, I don't know, I don't care, what authorities that you have to give. That's fine. That's for the president. But this authority has to be in the constitution, like constitutionally approved. And if you go to a level that you deal with billions of dollars of the American people, I think you have to be checked or approved by the Congress. Whatever you say about the Congress, but they still represent the American people.
No, I agree. I mean, look, no, there's no taxation without representation, and honestly, there shouldn't be any form of regulation without representation. I think this is the challenge we have right now. Like, it's very tough to have an entity or a body regulate itself, right? Like this is what hurt General Motors. It's even an issue in the military, right? Once a person has a position, it's rare for that person to honestly say, "My position isn't necessary anymore. Write me off of the budget. Let's move you into." So companies pay billions in consulting fees, and not one, but several companies. Billions are just to find operational efficiency. Very often it backfires, by the way, because when you bring an outsider, very often they don't understand even the mechanism of delivery. And this is where I agree with you. I think that the unchecked power for Elon Musk, I think it was ridiculous that the person who was providing security to prevent people from going in, you know what I'm saying, to take information that they did not have any warrant to collect is now being punished as somehow he's the bad guy for doing so. I think that actually sends the wrong message because now you're saying, okay, well then who's in charge? Can anybody go in? Can I now go into to the Social Security Administration building and then demand everybody's records and saying, well, I'm representing Elon? So I do agree with you. It does set an unhealthy precedent in that area. The irony here is that very often you almost kind of need this type of disruption to then really force the country to review itself, but then at the same time pull that disruptor out of the way before it becomes destructive, not disruptive.
So have you seen his team? Because the Wired online, they show like 6 guys from 19 to 24. They are doing this work. Some of them are still in college, and they go and with no experience at all, they demand to stop billions of dollars of payments to certain project. So it's again, it's really it's really crazy. I wouldn't even imagine in my wild dream that something like that will happen, especially in the government in the United States.
Yeah, and I have to add one last thing about Elon Musk is that this is one of the first times in U.S. bureaucracy history where we see someone who's representing multi-billion-dollar companies not recuse himself from those positions while also working for the United States government. And this is problematic because now you're interlapping the public-private partnership, and you're crossing, and you can't wear 2 hats, right? If you are going to audit the government from an independent perspective without any other biases or conflicts of interest in play, then that needs to be authentic. And Elon Musk needs to wear the Doge hat alone. He can't wear the Tesla hat and AI projects hat and all other hats at the same time while working for the Department of Government Efficiency, which, surprise, surprise, also deals with a lot of private contracts, which might benefit Elon's personal pockets at the end of the day. This is a problem. I mean, this to the victors bring the spoils.
But Rex, really, to me, maybe, and I'm not, again, I'm just providing a counter argument. When Dick Cheney was vice president, former executive of Halliburton, and during the second Gulf War, mysteriously Halliburton had all these contracts. Really, I mean, I know he resigned, but isn't it an exercise of convenience with a lot of these guys? I mean, that end up on top. Every one of these top level administrators or appointees, that they always seem to find these high level, high paying,
yes,
multi in the very corporations that ultimately, when they go back, they're supposed to make decisions on.
Yeah,
to me,
which is
Elon Musk maybe is just bringing to light what was already obvious anyway.
right, and I think those two are complementary. Actually, what we're saying is a complementary thing, that you're highlighting the actual deeper problem that Trump isn't solving. He claimed he was going to clean the deep state. Big part of the deep state is actually the intertwingling of the public-private sector into one, where government officials and bureaucrats are representing the American people while also representing multi-billion-dollar companies and corporations. This is problematic, and I think you're right. I think I agree with the point where you say that maybe this was needed in a disruptive fashion, but if the U.S. Congress and if the American public and even if the president himself don't react in the proper manner, this could very well become an uncontrollable monster. This whole Doge thing. The idea, I think the irony is lost in the idea that you have to create an entire bureaucratic department to erase bureaucratic departments, right?
But now Doge is acted. So I think there's consensus that in our analysis and in our conclusion on this is that despite the necessity and in a way the encouragement that there is an effort to really put to light these bureaucratic infrastructures, the process of Doge has significant questions to it, and carries with it significant adverse implications to our constitutional rights. How about, like, in terms of your position or Ahmed's position, how important is USAID? I personally believe we need to save it. We need to keep it there. I think it's not a State Department initiative. it is a independent, the delivery of assistance is not a negotiation position, as the State Department is there to represent the interests of the United States. Assistance and development, in a way, is kind of an autonomous, right, an independent thing. I just don't like the fact that when I'm trying to apply for a grant, Europe trying to apply for a grant, and things like that, there seems to be a line of special people who seem to get the USAID first and get the appointments first, and those same people that worked in USAID end up working for the same organizations that were getting the grants when they're not appointed until the next cycle. But I think it does serve an important role. I mean, Ahmed, you brought up the food issues and some of the construction issues. Should we save USAID?
I'm totally for saving money and dismantling this deep state, definitely. But again, Elon Musk is not a bureaucrat. If you try to find someone that's really a bureaucrat, he's not, because he does not have any experience in that. He never worked in a nonprofit organization. He does not know how the money flow to the nonprofit organization. He does not know how the money flows to Social Security. He knows about business, which is fine, but he does not know about this. But we have a lot of people that experts that have no political affiliation. We know exactly Elon Musk that has very, very strong political beliefs, and he does not hide these beliefs. He goes there and try to show it and show off on. And it's just very hard to see that the American government, that someone is trying to impress his followers on Twitter by shutting down millions and millions of dollars without a due process.
And if I could highlight one last thing as well, it would be on the point of soft power. There's a lot of adversaries of the United States that are just ecstatic at this move, because this is an opportunity and a window for them to start extending their aid and their economic influence over those impacted areas. But to kind of wrap this up, for me at least, I would say the problem isn't the theory, it's the approach. I don't think anyone in theory is against reforming, at the very least, USAID, cutting off some of the fat that has built around it, right? Cutting off some of the inefficiency, the misuse, and yes, arguably even the corruption. But the way that this was done was absolutely unacceptable on a constitutional level, on a political level, on a geopolitical level. It's just a disaster. And if the Trump administration really wants to usher into the golden age of America, quote unquote, destroying your allies is not the way to do it. Because America worked hard for, 80 years to build this international world order. People talk about adding Canada and Mexico and Panama to the map as an idea of an American empire. The American empire has been here since World War II. Attacking the institutions that you built and attacking the order that you created is not the creation of the American, it's the destruction of the American empire. So we are seeing an acceleration and a retreat of America on an international stage.
Look, I agree with you. And really, to close the segment, to me, you've got, like, for instance, I'm sure China's drooling, right? They've got the whole Belt and Road Initiative, and they've made inroads in Pakistan, in North Africa, in the Congo, especially in mineral-rich areas and things like that. And I've always extended to my friends is that we're there across the globe. In part, I think there's some genuine humanity and sincerity, but in part, there's a certain selfishness to say the American dollar reigns supreme, right? And as Americans, as a proud American, I want everybody to use the American dollar. Why? Because that way my country can continue to sell bonds to pay and supplement everything that it's promising its citizenry, and the dollar remains strong and remains powerful. And you look at this insane stance that people have with regards to how it is for international aid for this development thing, and it does lead to concern, because I don't think a lot of times when people are asking the questions, they're not looking into the deeper meaning and in the deeper role of this. Again, there's no question, in a world in which there's hunger, you cannot succeed. There's no economy, you cannot trade. I think USAID is vital to help develop that infrastructure. And at that same time, when you develop that infrastructure, guess what they use? They use the American dollar. And that's absolutely essential for us as Americans, so that way we can keep our economy growing and keep our influence strong. I mean, look, as I'm born and raised here. I'm Muslim. I'm Arab. I'm proud. I'm Syrian. Things like that. But I'm an American, and the strength of America and is in the resilience of its institutions and its ability to maintain its presence on a global scale. I think at times the corruption has led to a lot of disruption, and I think concern validly so. And I think that's why Trump got elected. Rex, to your point, and Ahmed, to your point. But I think you can't compromise our institutional values, our constitutional values. But I think that the very Constitution that we're trying to protect has the tools to help revise and correct this corruption or this mismanagement or this malfeasance or however in whatever way you want to context it. But I think we can all agree that USAID still remains an important institution. In our next segment for AIO, inshallah, we'll be discussing tariffs and the impact of global tariffs and its role in terms of the economy in the near future. So we'll see you in a few moments.